Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation, I'm proud to say, is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend Bob Fabian Zinka.
Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ, where we help you lead with purpose and succeed with impact. If you're ready to grow into the kind of leader others want to follow, this podcast is for you. If you're determined to elevate your success and leave a lasting legacy, this podcast is for you. As my mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell reminds us, everything rises and falls on leadership. Our goal is simple: to inspire you, challenge you, and equip you with insights that can transform the trajectory of your leadership journey. Welcome aboard to another episode of the Leadership and Success Podcast with Coach BZ.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another special edition of the Leadership and Success Podcast. So this is our second podcast for today. So for those who watch the first one, as you know, we like to start with moment of gratitude. And today I am really grateful that I'm still alive. No, I can still breathe, because as long as I have breath, there is hope for me. And I am so grateful for that. So let us know in the comment, where are you joining us from? What city, what state? And if outside of the US, since we are global now, please go ahead and let us know which country. And also what you are grateful for. And if you do have a question for my guest, please type it in the comment and we will answer live. So let me see if I can properly introduce our guest today. Today we are talking about Trustworthy AI, right? Leadership lesson from the front line of AI safety. And I'm going to be speaking to an old friend. We both were students, and we also worked at the University of Alabama. Roll Tide, roll, right? I consider her to be my sister from another mother. And then I think it was in 2010, she moved to Birmingham. And then in January 2011, I moved to Silicon Valley. So I am now definitely into the tech industry and the US Navy. And she's now an AI expert. It's just amazing how life works out. So I'm really definitely looking forward to our discussion today. So today I am going to be speaking to Sarah Katharine Carpenter. Like I say, she's an AI expert, and really one thing that's important, I think, for a lot of people who watch this show, right, is artificial intelligence rapidly transforming business, cybersecurity, government, defense, and society itself, really. But the question few leaders really need to be asking is, what happens when AI systems fail in ways humans don't immediately recognize? And Sarah Katharine works at the intersection of AI safety, adversarial testing, LLM evaluation, failure mode analysis, and alignment and trustworthy AI. And Sarah Katharine specializes in identifying hidden weaknesses in AI system, especially under ambiguous, adversarial, and high-risk condition where output may appear correct on the surface while failing underneath. So her work includes AI red teaming and adversarial prompting, alignment evaluation, and data set integrity analysis, detecting meaning level failures and systemic risk pattern, identifying how AI system drift, misclarify, or break under pressure, and also strengthening trustworthy AI system for the future. So this conversation is bigger than just technology. It's really about leadership under ambiguity. How do you lead when there is no certainty or clarity, right? Responsible innovation, trust in intelligent systems, cybersecurity and AI risk, and ethical stewardship in the age of artificial intelligence. So if you are a naval officer aspiring to command one day, or a tech executive, or a senior engineer, aspiring to become a tech executive one day, I think this episode is for you. Part of what you're going to be learning is what AI safety researchers actually do behind the scene, but also why the future of AI depends on understanding failure. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast, Sarah Katharine Carpenter. Well, good morning, Sarah Katharine. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you, Bob?
Fantastic. Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast, all the way from, I guess, Birmingham, Alabama is where you are now, right? Okay. So that's about an hour from T-Town. All right. So, what are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for watching how God lines our life up and things that you don't realize in hindsight become so meaningful. Like in
Yes.
2010 or 2007, 2008, when I was in admissions, who would have known that on down the road we would be able to reconnect in such a meaningful way?
Yes. It is really amazing the way life works out. No, one advice my mom always gave me is to treat everybody with respect and dignity, no matter who they are, because you never know who they might become in the future. But yeah, definitely great to reconnect, especially in this world that is very fascinating and really changing every industry that we know of. But before we get into AI, what is something about you that most people may not know when they first meet you?
Um, I think honestly today that I work in AI, most people when they do find out, they are very surprised by it, especially in the community I am in because it's a very classical education, liberal arts, and it is going to. We're going to keep books in the classroom for as long as possible. So everything has been so. Not wanting to focus on technology, but yet here I come in with AI under my belt. So that's something that my specific community is surprised by.
That is really fascinating. And we were talking in the green room for the longest, people who are in tech like myself, they were pretty much required to have like a STEM degree, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. But your
Mhm.
degree is in art. You got a Bachelor of Art from the University of Alabama. Why do you think it is important for people, regardless of their educational background? Why is there still room for them in the technology industry?
Well, I think specifically with AI, the way that I have looked at it as essentially we're training a computer to be a whole person. So that's all encompassing of every discipline. But most importantly, it's in discernment, language, rhetoric,
Yes.
linguistics, all of the disciplines, the classics that
Mm,
are so important for the
yes.
basis of education are now also important for the basis of building AI responsibly.
That is so powerful because I sit on the board of two nonprofit organizations, and we really try very very hard to make technology more diverse, have more women and more people of color. But for the young ladies maybe in school right now who are watching, I want them to have an idea of what an AI expert looks like, right? So you don't have to be a male, and you don't have to just study science or tech or computer science. You can actually come from the background of arts and classical education, and there is still room for you, I believe, at the very top of our industry. So uh, let me ask you this. You work in one of the most important emerging fields in the world today, artificial intelligence safety. What first pulled you into this space?
So I remember specifically it was early in 2023, and I saw this as an emerging field and essentially with the untrained workforce.
Mm,
And so at that time, my youngest was about to go back into kindergarten, and I kind of thought, well, now's my time. I can get back into something. And I thought, well, this popped up. Why don't I jump on one of these annotator freelance platforms? And so I started doing that, and just gradually has compounded. But initially, what my motivation was, I was sitting there and I was thinking about how, if these models are only as good as the data that is fed to it, then I thought it was important to get in there and help with the foundation and the shaping of the information that goes into it, because I
yes.
do have a strength in being able to discern and see truth and to find where things are failing. So I
Mm,
wanted to jump in at the moment. So it was ground level, and I thought, well, this
yes.
is the chance. So, and it's been very interesting to work and evolve
Hmm.
alongside with the career path that I've chosen. So it's
Wow.
interesting because it's like we are both developing at the same time.
That
So
is really, really fascinating. Was there a moment when you realized that AI isn't just impressive, but it can also fail in ways most people may not understand?
yes, it's really when I started working with models at scale. I saw how outputs look polished, but they would lack meaning. So the danger really just is when wrong answers are still capable of earning the trust of the end user who
Mm-hmm.
does not have, they do not exercise discernment in that moment to determine, hey, what does wrong actually look like? Should I be checking this? I think you see it in examples in the news all the time. There was a lawyer recently who I believe used AI to create a complaint or something, and then he's been fined for that. So it's
Yes.
absolutely important to know how to responsibly use AI. So just seeing that
Yes.
little bit of a semantic drift and understanding on downstream how that
Mm.
can affect the end user is really when I saw that failures are really one of the most important things in this.
Yeah, especially for me, from a cybersecurity perspective, even in the military, I really believe human oversight is so key because with AI, there is AI hallucination, which we refer to. AI sometimes just make up stuff, and
It's true. It's true. Yes,
yeah,
yes, it's very true.
because it
Yes,
just want to please you. And then if you are a
yeah.
lawyer and you have to write a brief and you're gonna go to a judge, you don't want to come up with case law that is completely fabricated, right?
Yeah,
Like it
exactly. Yes,
makes
poor
sense.
thing. Yes,
So
yeah, exactly. So it's not foolproof and it cannot do absolutely everything. You absolutely have to have the
mhm,
discernment of the end user that comes in
yes.
and makes up for that gap.
So even though AI can definitely help you be more proficient, right, and
Mhm.
effective, you do have to review the work of AI every time before you sign your name on it, and challenge it to the way you use it. So let's talk about this is a relatively new field, right? AI safety research. What do they actually do? Because I think most people have no idea what AI evaluation and adversarial analysis actually involve. When you tell people you study failure modes in AI system, what does that actually mean for the average person?
So I think that most people think AI fails when it's obviously wrong.
Hmm.
So as we just discussed, it's the little, it could be a paragraph in a essay you asked it to write.
Hmm.
Um, one little excerpt, one little sentence in there that's incorrect
Yeah.
will completely derail your integrity.
Mm.
So when a response looks right while missing the meaning or the intent of what the user actually wanted,
Hmm.
the goal is actually to catch those patterns earlier so that they don't scale with the model and then roll out downstream with the end user. So really, my goal is catch the failure modes in the upstream so that we can prevent harm on the back end or on the downstream.
That is really insightful because the other thing with AI is it keeps learning and sometimes it drifts as well. So something that may appear like a very small mistake now, uh, after a while it can actually become catastrophic, can't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and there's many examples of that all
Yeah.
over, which all goes right back to meaning and intent.
Hmm.
So, you may ask a model to do something and it can refuse something that is dangerous, and it will not
Right.
give you the answer. But if you change the intent slightly, it may slip past it. So that is essentially
Right.
what we do every day
Mm.
is catch that semantic drift.
And talking about meaning and intent, can you explain for our audience what meaningful level failure means?
Yes, so it's when something is not obviously wrong, but it's misaligned in meaning. So it's
Mm.
not something that you could trust and act on. Like, for example, if a user wanted a model to edit one of their documents and
Mhm.
they said, highlight this area for me. But what they actually intended was for the model to underline it, then
Mhm.
that little difference, that could just be a personal way that they speak about highlight, or anything that can just change in meaning slightly can absolutely change the outcome that you get. So, and then
Mm.
sometimes when you go to correct the model, it becomes confused, and then you do have information
Yes.
that is incorrect come out. So it's really just a loop. It's a cycle. So looking for the things that aren't obviously wrong, but heavily influenced by changes in words specifically.
So why then are ambiguous situations so important in AI safety research?
So AI safety isn't really about catching the obvious failures. It's about understanding when the system does things wrong and when it isn't clear. So ambiguous situations really force the model to interpret that intent, fill the gaps, and make judgment calls. That's where you can see whether it's staying aligned or where it's actually drifting. So that ambiguous environment is essential for you to be able to continue to make sure your model is not drifting into a place you don't want it.
So, was there one thing, or maybe a couple of things, that surprised you the most once you started evaluating LLM, large language models at scale?
Um, I think that really one of the most surprising things for me was how important the liberal arts and classical education is in this
Mhm.
field. That's really something that I kind of, it was kind of a realization I had very recently
Mhm.
because I was thinking, okay, this is exactly what they teach in the classical school. This is exactly what I learned in arts and sciences. And
Mhm.
here I am using it today where most people would have thought it's a dying field. These are dying fields, but they're not. Discernment, language, meaning, it's all a judgment problem. It's not just
Yes.
technical. So we really have to make sure that we're including both the technical and the side that is
Mhm.
classical liberal arts education. But to be fair, in liberal arts, we are in the arts and sciences, we did a lot of research. As an undergraduate, I was writing, papers, 3 or 4 papers a semester, 10 to 20, 25 pages each,
Mhm.
SPSS analysis. So I was given really kind of both sides of it, the
Yes.
analysis plus the interpretation in that college. I'm so grateful for that. That was one of the
Yes.
best experiences I've had.
That is really powerful, and I guess more and more in the last recent years, there is especially another lady I collaborate with on LinkedIn. She doesn't like STEM; she likes STEAM, so she add an A to it, right? So science, technology, engineering, art, and
I
then
like that. That's
yeah,
good. Oh, that's
because
good.
yeah, it's true, because I feel like we really need to open it up, because I feel like people who come from a different point of view, they bring so much to the technology
Oh,
field
yeah.
because they think differently and they look at problems in different ways. And I think it just adds so much to what we do, I think, when it comes to tech or emerging tech.
Right, right. And it has helped me. I am learning so much every day from the people that I work around. And so I think that, yes, you have to embrace the others that bring a different viewpoint. And that's how we're going to do this well.
Yes, indeed. Now, let's talk about adversarial thinking and AI security.
Mhm.
You've worked in adversarial prompting and jailbreak discovery. What exactly is a jailbreak in AI? And for most people, I think they know what it means to jailbreak like an iPhone. People used to do it back, I guess, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. I don't think you can jailbreak your current iPhone anymore. At least they make it more complicated and they're much more difficult to do. But what about jailbreaking AI? What does
So,
that mean?
a jailbreak is when somebody finds a way to bypass an AI system safeguards and to get it to produce responses it normally would not. So essentially, they're tricking it.
Hmm.
It's not hacking the system; it's manipulating how it interprets the problem. Uh,
Yes.
so, for example, instead of asking directly, someone might frame something as hypothetical or a role play or a translation task.
Mhm.
The model thinks it's being helpful because it wants to help in that context, but it ends up generating content it was actually supposed to avoid. So
Mhm.
on the surface, it looks like the system's following instructions, but underneath, it's really steered into breaking its own rules.
Hmm. That's interesting. Uh, why do you believe AI security and AI safety are becoming inseparable?
Because the line between misuse and failure is disappearing. So AI safety really is about making sure the systems behave as they are intended. AI security is about preventing people from intentionally making them behave in ways that they should not. But in practice, they mean the same thing. Or they meet in the same place. So how the system responds is under pressure is really what we're seeking by bringing those two together.
Now, one thing that may surprise a lot of people listening, but even the people who have designed and architected most of the AI tools and LLMs that people use today, they don't fully understand how AI is able to do what it does. Even at OpenAI, some of the architect engineer don't really understand how it comes up to those outputs. So,
Right.
what worries you most this day? Malicious actor trying to attack an AI system, or organization who are deploying system they don't fully understand,
Well,
or maybe both?
really, organizations deploying systems that they don't understand.
Mhm.
Malicious actors, they are a real risk, but I think that we expect that already. I think that what concerns me the most is when systems are deployed at scale without a clear understanding of how they behave, where they fail, or what assumptions they're making. Um,
Mhm.
that's how you get quiet systemic issues that when nothing actually looks obviously wrong, it's drifting in ways that are very subtle. And if no one's actively monitoring it,
Yeah.
by the time it is visible, it's already embedded inside it.
Now, in cyber security, I feel I'm very much passionate about. We often say that most systems fail at the seam. So, for AI system, where do you see the seams breaking today?
So AI systems, they don't usually fail in isolation. They really fail at transitions. So when you start wanting to train a model, you have pre-training. So you have the people who are working on small data set. They're auditing it. They're checking it
Mhm.
for is the model behaving like it's supposed to. And then when they transition that to the next level where you are then putting it into production, you have annotators who are coming in who may interpret guidelines differently, or maybe the
Yes.
guideline missed one explicit instruction, and you may have annotators who decide to just they're going to decide this is the right answer without asking. So there's drift there. Then you have the people who are actually using the model, so you never
Mhm.
can really anticipate how they are going to use it. So drift really starts to happen not because one part failed, but because the layers continue operating under slightly different assumptions. So
Yes.
the failure isn't in one place, it's in the transition or in the definitions that weren't explicit. That's the drift.
Okay, I like that. Now we have a few people who are watching live who are commenting on the podcast. Again, for those watching live, if you have a question for Sarah Catherine, please type it in the comment and we will answer your question live. So we have Ron. Ron says, "You hit the nail on the head about data is the most important thing for AI." I definitely agree with that. Asking AI for solution instead of where we need data as being directed by AI is the key IMO. And I agree with that. Thank you so much for sharing on. And we have another LinkedIn user who are pinging somebody else because they feel like you are talking about such an important subject they want their friend to see. And I believe this is Colleen Trout. She says hallucinations replicate. And that is so true. And somebody else is asking another one of their friends to come join us live. So a lot of people like what you are saying. And I love to stop some time to acknowledge that because when I started this podcast 5 years ago, it was just me, myself, and I. Nobody was listening. I was doing it just for the audience of one. So now we have potentially 65,000 people listening around the world. And when they interact with us, I definitely want to acknowledge that. I guess another question I have for you, Sarah Catherine, is what do you think most organizations underestimate right now when it comes to AI risk?
Okay. Well, I think that they are underestimating how inevitable the drift actually is. I mean, I think that if you have a model, you can expect that how quickly it scales. If no one's watching it, no one's owning it, then it is going to drift. You should just expect
Yes.
that. I don't think that they really anticipate what that means as far as a continuous monitoring of the data.
Mhm.
I think that a lot of people are even missing it. I think that you have to have a person, at least one person, who just essentially sits within the data set and
Mhm.
watches what happens as people are annotating, auditing, reviewing, and evaluating. because if you go and you just look at a few different examples, you can start to see the nuances and the things that are slightly breaking down.
Yes.
It's very, very interesting.
No, I think what you're saying is so critical and important. For example, for my military background, we've started now using AI for military operation, if you believe it or not. I think we started for the first time for a live military operation in January, right? When we went to Venezuela to kidnap their president. And of course, we are using AI again for Operation Epic Fury in Iran. But one thing in the military, though, because especially when it comes to safety, because it's a matter of life and death, I believe we absolutely have to have human oversight. We cannot let those LLM and machine learning and AI make all of the decision and take
Right.
action too, right? A human being has to review it because it could be the difference between targeting our actual enemy or killing innocent girls in a school. So we absolutely have to have human oversight for that. But why do you think human oversight is so critical based on the work you do as an AI researcher?
Um, it all comes down to the end user and preventing harm to the end user.
Mhm.
That's really what my motivation is,
Yes.
because I think that where we are today, this is probably the most impactful set of decisions we will be making that will affect this generation coming up underneath us, and then even the generation underneath them. So it's really, what are we going to leave behind for them? Are we going to leave them in a better place, or are we going to leave them in a much harder place? And right now
Yes.
it's very, very critical because we're at the very beginning. So we can catch this now and stop it before it does scale and compounds on top of each other. You want to catch it when it's
Yes.
easier, and that's now. So
Mm.
I feel a sense of urgency in that. Just, it's like it feels like a race to get there, to stop it, to catch it, and prevent it from going too far
Yes.
too soon.
No, that is so insightful. Let's talk about system thinking and leadership. Like me, you do have a system thinking mindset. Uh, why is system thinking so critical, you think, in AI safety?
Um, so if you're not thinking in systems, um, AI is really a chain of decisions. So
Hmm.
failures accumulate across the layers. So you have to think in terms of systems. If I make this decision here, or if I let this stay within the data set without correcting it, how is that going to compound on down the line and then roll out to the end user? So that's how I see it. What is it going to do to this data set? Is it going to introduce inconsistency? Is it going
Hmm.
to, have the model drift? I mean, some of these things could be so effective as one day the model is making decisions on its own based upon inputs, parameters you haven't actually given it, but you
Yeah.
didn't correct the intent. And so
Hmm.
there it is confused on what the intent was, and then is kind of acting in its own agency at that point.
Yes. Wow. Now, one thing you've said before is the most dangerous failures are often the hardest to detect. That is quite insightful. Most dangerous, hardest to detect. How does that idea apply beyond artificial intelligence, maybe to leadership or organization in general?
Um, I think that a lot of what you see replicate in AI also replicates in our world. It's very interesting because as I'm sitting in the data, I'm running a parallel loop in my head to what I see exist in the world. So I guess really one of the most important things for leadership and leaders,
Hmm.
um, the instinct is often to react quickly when we see things that we think fail. And I think that that's not the right answer. I think that you
Yes.
have to sometimes be very patient and have controlled restraint. That's really
Yes.
something that I have focused my practice around, is
Hmm.
restraint, controlled restraint, in a way that I'm able to make clean decisions that I'm confident in, that I've thought well through. And so I think that that's really one of the most important things for leadership, is to not react so instantaneously, but see how it's going to develop. As far as within education institutions right now, they're building, a whole new colleges that fall under the college, or the school, the university, and ones that are creating new disciplines when we actually already have these disciplines. They
Hmm.
exist. And so instead of jumping to race to try to be at the front, I think that sitting
Mhm.
back and deploying it meaningfully and well is what's more important.
Yes. Wow. That is quite insightful. What leadership lessons have you learned so far from studying how intelligence systems fail? And you've been doing this for quite a while.
Really, and it's interesting because I enjoy it so much because it does feel like often a personal development in so many ways because I guess you are analyzing meaning, and so it
Mhm.
helps you interpret that, internalize that. So restraint has been the biggest leadership lesson for me, especially yes, learning to not react quickly, to sit back and think, and to really stay anchored under pressure.
Yeah. But now, one thing I have noticed when I came to Silicon Valley about 12, 13 years ago, our IQ, I think, is extremely high in this area. But the EQ, we have a lot of work to do, emotional intelligence and showing humility. How important is intellectual humility when working at the frontier of technologies like artificial intelligence, you think?
I think that it's extremely important. It's probably one of the most important things because when systems start to drift or behave unpredictably, um, you really have to be able to say, well, maybe I'm not right, and be
Hmm.
able to listen to your counterpart or the engineering or the researchers, whoever it may be, and to not just dig your heels in and say I'm right no matter what,
Hmm.
because that will not move it further into resolution. So that's really probably been um, what's been so important in my work because it has taught me. It's removes a little bit of like the competitive level in a sense, and it brings a teamwork environment, and I prefer that because the things that I've learned from people in this space. I mean, there's super intelligent people here, and I'm here to absorb anything that anybody is willing to help me learn.
That is really powerful. I think that's really a leadership and a life lesson, isn't it? Just leading your
Mhm.
life with humility, because it's really impossible today to know everything there is to know about anything, is it?
Right. Right.
Uh,
Exactly. And that's how I always approach things. I always say, you will know if I know the answer because I will be 100% certain in what I'm saying, but I will always give a disclaimer if I don't know. And it's okay to be wrong. And also, this is important to me because it's modeling for my children how I want them to react and
mm,
behave and, to be teachable because that's actually how I've been able to land where I am today and in so many different roles because I'm teachable
yes.
and I'm always seeking knowledge from others. So those are that's really one of the primary driving forces in my life.
That is so powerful. I must tell you, I had the opportunity to actually lead a command as a commanding officer in the U.S. Navy after I became a commander. No, less than 1% of people who join the Navy have that chance. But I must tell you, the number one lessons I learned as a commanding officer is lead with humility. Because you
Mhm.
would think, oh, I am at this level, I am the big kahuna, I am in charge and all of that of the people of the mission. But no, there is no arrogance, there is no ego into it. Because if that's the way you are thinking, you are definitely going to fail.
Right.
It's just amazing how God can add circumstances to really humble you at times when your ego gets too high, but you really have to lead with humility no matter what you do. That's definitely a lesson I will always keep. Um, wow. So let me ask you from your system view mindset, what do you believe separate organizations that use AI responsibly from those who are simply chasing hype these days?
I think that the ones that are using it responsibly, they're disciplined and they're quiet. They value meaning and not the hype. So they're not rushing to scale.
Hmm.
They value quality over quantity. Getting it right is more important than sacrificing to push it through to production. So
Yes.
it's really just that controlled, that quiet restraint that I have been focusing on adopting myself.
Now, let's talk about the future of AI safety and security. In my opinion, I think Europe is doing it a lot better than we are here in the state. No, even when it comes to privacy, they have GDPR. We don't really have a federal lawyer, except I guess of the Privacy Act of what 1976, which is completely outdated. No, so many things happening now, technology-wise, that didn't exist back then. But I guess a question I have for you: do you believe in America we are moving faster in AI capability, and we are not moving fast enough AI safety and security?
Yes, I do believe that we are moving faster in AI capability than in safety. But that's also what part of it makes it so powerful. So, and the
Hmm.
speed is the advantage. So, the problem isn't that the capability is moving fast, it's that the safety isn't being built to move at the same pace. So
Hmm.
right now, safety is often treated as a checkpoint, and in a system that's evolving this quickly, it continues and it's continuous and it becomes embedded in the system. So you also have to have that continuous monitoring of the safety, not just checkpoints. And I think sometimes in the transitions, like I said, that's where the failure happens. That is where people assume, or the teams may assume, okay, they check the safety of this. We're good.
Hmm.
It's moving on to us safely. That can never be
Yes.
assumed. So
Hmm.
I think just really getting the continuous monitoring of the data
Yes.
is the most important thing here.
So, what keeps you optimistic then about the future of artificial intelligence?
Well, the fact that we are still early and that the standards aren't fully developed, and we still have the opportunity to come in at this point, and it has not been rolled out in a way that has been harmful as a whole to us. And I think that we are still early enough that we can do this well, as long as it's done intentionally. So,
Hmm.
um, the right systems, the right people in
Yes.
place, and the right humility too is what
Hmm.
we need right now. So we are right on time if we handle it well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Anything that keeps you awake at night when it comes to AI safety?
So I think that yes, actually, there's a gap that exists. I think with people, my peers specifically, parents and children and education. I
Hmm.
think that it's so important for parents to be trained, educate the schools to be trained, so that we can train our children to use it responsibly. Also,
Yes.
that's something I do, and I've taught. I have a 7-year-old that he picks up my iPad and he goes to ask, he filters apps on, but
Hmm.
he wants to download. And so instead of coming to me first, he'll go filter and he comes back to me and he'll read off we call Chat GPT Chet because we feel like he should have a name. So Chet is his name. So Rhett comes back and he'll say, Chet says that this one's okay for me to have. And he'll give me all the
Hmm.
points. I'm sure he's reading through and skipping the parts that I don't want to hear. But, so it's so good though,
Yes.
'cause that takes out time that I would have spent looking and reviewing the app. And he's using it well. My other son used it to create a basketball training program for
Yeah.
himself. And to see them do that so well, it just makes me very happy because I think, well, this is it. This is how we do it. We don't hold it
Yes.
back from them, because if you hold it back from them, what you'll have is children who are hiding in their bedrooms and using it in ways that we don't want them using it. So um, parents really have to step in here, and instead of saying, "Oh, I'll let my kids teach me how to use these things," it's too
Hmm.
powerful. We can't let them do that. And
Yeah.
then education, especially in the classical realm, we really need to step in and fill that gap, because
Hmm.
what they teach is exactly what AI needs. And so those two have to come together so
Mm, I
that
like
we
that.
lead this space.
I like that. I think to me, one of the most tragic example of this was a couple of years ago. Right? There was this little boy, I think it was in Florida, 14-year old, who fell in love with this AI chat bot and then decided to kill himself so they could meet in AI heaven or
Mm.
whatever. So a human being actually died because of this powerful technology. And then also a lot of, especially teenagers, I think their brain is not quite fully developed yet. They get addicted to a lot of this technology. What do you think can be done? I guess first at the parent level, but maybe even at the societal level, so we can see more safety guard when it comes to the use of this powerful
Um,
technology.
it's really, so I think that not pretending that it doesn't exist.
Mm,
And there's a lot of spaces where people just, they kind of just pretend it doesn't exist. Or, and
yes,
instead of running from it, we need to embrace what is good, what can help us. And it is the speediness. And in a
yes,
world where we are constantly demanded and pulled in every direction, why would we not embrace something that can execute a task for us faster, that can read through a document and give me the points very quickly. Last year, I remember at the very beginning of the school year, they gave us like a 60-page packet for sixth grade, and
hmm
I was like, okay, I'm going to do this really well. And so I put it into the model, and I found the bullets and that I needed, even down to the one at the
yes,
very end that said, "Sign this place, and your child gets a 3-point bonus." And I was like,
hmm
good for you, Chet. You did this well. So
yes,
I think that we really have an opportunity to teach the children how to use
mm,
it well. We can't ignore that. So
yes,
I think it has to be embraced on all levels, just all the way around. Because that's one
mm,
thing I focus on with my children is that, when they say Chet's so smart, that's when I'm like, when you realize, remember, he is a computer.
yes,
It's not a person. He
mm,
doesn't have feelings. But there's also a bonus in that he doesn't have feelings, and that he removes the emotion and allows you to
mm,
see the system very clearly. Um,
yes,
Often what I use it for is to help me aim very precisely with what it is that I'm seeking, because
mm,
your emotions distort your reality. And so that has really been a good checkpoint for me
mm,
and maybe that's how I'm learning to have more of a restraint and not
yes.
be so reactive, and because the emotion can be removed with using these tools.
Well, say that one more time. Emotion distort.
It distorts our reality. I
Wow.
mean, yes. So, because that's the same principle as if you're mad about something and then you wait, a day or two, you don't care anymore because your emotions no longer heightened.
Wow. That is
So
powerful.
chat in real time can help you see to work through that much faster.
Yes, yes, that is really powerful. So, what about all of the CEOs or C-level executive, no, senior military leaders listening right now? If you had their ears for like 60 seconds, what would you tell them about the safety of artificial intelligence?
To stop treating AI safety like it's a feature and not infrastructure. Um,
Mhm.
Most of the organizations, I think, are over invested in capability and under invested in evaluation, monitoring, and accountability.
Yes.
It's not a technical gap that exists; it's a leadership gap.
Mm.
So that's what I would stress most to them. If you don't build it now, you won't catch a system that fails later down the line.
Yeah, that is so powerful. So AI safety should really be built into the process and not be like an add-on after the
Right.
fact. And I am working right now on a framework for AI governance, which would have a leg about safety, security, something I'm very passionate about, but also privacy and governance and ethics. I think those are the five things that many times big corporations don't really spend much time on. And you are right. We're still kind of in the early formation of this technology, so maybe we should really put those into place now.
Mhm.
Instead of waiting. So let me just take a few moments to talk about your personal journey. We kind of hint into it. It is kind of unusual, but I really really love, the way uh, you have come out to becoming an AI expert today from where you started at the University of Alabama. Your career path is really unconventional, right? From enterprise risk management to AI safety research. How has that diversity kind of shaped your perspective on AI technology and just emerging tech in general?
Well, so I think it's really interesting because for so long, the way that I have navigated, really since, gosh, probably the first job I ever applied for with a resume. I mean, this is back I was in high school.
Mhm.
The way that I have my own evaluation system that I've always run, and it's a two-step process. It's, I look at a job that's posted and I say, can I do this job? And if think yes, I can, my next question is, would I enjoy doing this job? And
Mhm.
so if either one of those are a no, I move on, because I'm not going to do something that I don't enjoy and I'm not going to do
Yes.
well. So
Yes.
that has really kind of moved my path along. I think that, they say that the classics and liberal arts education can transfer to all fields. And I think that I'm living proof of that, because if, like you said, I was in admissions, then I was in the career center at the university, risk management, Pearson,
Mhm.
but all of them have certain parts of it that have been very specific to this, like Pearson, scoring their assessments for children, end of the year testing. That taught me how to be very precise with rubrics, because that if you don't apply the rubric with Pearson, you cannot stay on, because
Mhm.
this is important. These children, like, if they don't pass, they don't move on. So
Yes.
all these little things converge to just kind of create the perfect storm for me to move right
Mm.
into AI. But the enterprise risk management, I guess I didn't really realize how formative that was for me, because I
Yes.
was in my 20s, and it was just, I was the data or the risk analyst, and I had my director of risk, and we were the only two that ran a humongous insurance program for, a coal mining company. So our, property insurance was, our premiums were $20 million a month. I mean,
Wow.
right. So our, the data was endless, and what a
Yes.
great, that's when I really learned I liked risk so much, because you saw all facets of the company, which
Mm.
I think can tell you that risk safety transcends into everything, because if you have to look at all parts of the company to determine where the risk lies in
Yes.
traditional enterprise risk management, it is the same thing in AI. And
Wow.
so I think that,
That's powerful.
yeah, it really is. And I guess it was really interesting to look back and think, okay, now it all clicks. Now
Mhm.
it all clicks. And so that's why I
Yeah.
have always felt that choosing to follow what I think I would do well and, really put my heart into has
Mhm.
not led me wrong, because I mean, we didn't know this was coming,
Yes.
and here it is today, and I'm just so grateful. So
Mm.
I'm grateful to be here.
Well, look at Catherine, let me ask you this then, because you do operate in a highly ambiguous environment. Some people
Mhm.
don't like that because you have to make decision when you don't have all of the information, right? How do you personally stay grounded though and mentally disciplined?
So you can't react to the noise first. You have to be able to discern and tell what is meaningful and what is just noise, and what is noise
Yes.
that won't become harmful later on. So, what can you ignore and what can you not? So, really, just being able to observe and sit within the ambiguity and not be bothered by it is super
Yes.
important. Somebody told me once that I have a very unusual high capability to sit in an ambiguous and chaotic environment and then be able to bring structure to that chaos.
Mm.
I don't know,
Wow.
maybe it's being the youngest of four kids, I learned it, or
Yes.
maybe having three children. I think that those are chaotic situations, and so
Mhm.
I, I've always very naturally been able to see where the issue is,
Yes.
and think, okay, this is how we fix it.
Mm.
So
Powerful.
it used to feel like a curse sometimes, but
Yeah.
so I'm like, I'm always the one that sees the problem, so I'm always the one that's going to fix the problems, and that's fine. No,
Yes.
so but now I'm doing it in a space that I'm really enjoying, and it
Mm.
means a lot to me because it affects so many people.
Yes. That is really powerful and insightful. So let's think about some of the young ladies who are listening to the podcast now. For example, my first daughter who got a degree, a Bachelor of Art in Music last year, or my second one who's about now to graduate high school and go to college. What would you tell them? Which advice would you have for young girls trying to transition into AI safety or AI security today when they may not have a STEM degree of a traditional background to get into the field?
What's interesting, you said she has a degree in music. What I think people that have see that work at universities, the kids that come out of the music school, they're outstandingly intelligent. I mean,
Yes.
in fact, I was given a fact at Alabama once that the people admitted into the law school, top 25 public
Hmm.
institutes in law school, the most accepted from majors is a music major in Alabama. And I
That's
thought, that's just
crazy.
amazing. Yeah. So I'm like, if you want to be a
Yes.
music major, you absolutely should. It's working different parts of your brain. So you're building
Yeah.
pathways, just like we're building pathways in the AI system. You were building pathways
Yeah.
that didn't exist before. So
That's
I think
amazing.
fabulous. So, but really, experience is what you need in this. There's so many platforms out there that you can
Hmm.
join. You can jump on a freelance project and just get very broad,
Mm.
quick experience. And I think very quickly whether you can do this well or not. And so
Yes.
I think it's important to lean into the things you do well. And if you don't do something well, don't just stick to it because it sounds good. Go find what you're passionate about or what you're good at doing, because that's
Mm.
how you can really contribute in ways that help.
That's really powerful. And talking about music, my daughter was telling me the number one artist today on YouTube is not a human being, but AI. They create music and songs and all of that, and people love the music. Then I wonder who the royalties goes to, since it's not you can't really send money to an artificial intelligence. But anyway, it's really amazing how the world is changing. It's just
Really,
incredible. Now we
it's
have another question from our live audience. Colleen Trout says, "How do you program intent across a diverse and changing landscape?"
okay. So you have to find where the meaning could mean more than one thing. So, like I remember specifically in transcription tasks,
Mm-hmm.
those can be very difficult to see the surface
Yes.
failure, but underneath it, you know, if you let something through that didn't quite meet the literal translation. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to think of a specific example that would make sense. But
Well,
if you don't do
get
it
it.
specifically correct, then it drifts. And
Yes.
so you have to you start with a small data set. So you start with a very
Mm-hmm.
small, 100 tasks, and you go through and you intentionally audit every single one of them.
Wow,
And
100 task is small, huh?
yeah, yeah, it is. Yes, yes, for sure. Because that, I mean, you could go smaller, but I feel like that 100's a good
Yes.
number. So you evaluate that
Really,
data.
I mean, when you think about scale, it's just amazing what AI can do. Because even the way I use AI now, I can do the work myself, but it would probably take me, I don't know, 30 minutes or even an hour. But AI can do it in just like a couple of minutes. It's just incredible.
Absolutely. It is. It's incredible. It is truly incredible. I have taken things that I've written. I've taken, work that I completed, 15 years ago even,
Yes,
and dumped it into there so we could get a really kind of a holistic profile of,
yes,
what my strengths were. And it was so interesting because it
man,
connected all these dots that, there seems so obvious when they
yes,
points it out to you, but yet
man, that's amazing.
you sit in it and you don't see it. So yeah, it
Yeah.
removes all of like essentially the time consuming, the admin, the
Mhm.
clerical and it frees it up to the thought work, and that's the fun part.
Wow.
So,
That is really amazing because really, like, even when I prepare for the podcast, right, I have to do research on my guests and all
mhm,
of that, and then promote it. No, it used to take maybe an hour, I don't know, maybe 2 to 2.5 hours just to prepare for one guest. Today I had two podcasts. There are days I have 3 or 4 podcasts. Now I still have
mhm,
a whole lot bunch of things I need to do. So when I use AI to do the research for me and the promotion,
mhm.
I can do it instead of 2.5 hours per person. Maybe it's only 15 or 20 minutes. So it really saves me a lot of time. And I mean, I must tell you, time truly is money. Actually, that's the first thing I told the woman who became my wife at the University of Alabama. She met me on one of those chat thing I had on my website when I was a student. But anyway, first thing I asked her, okay, my time is money. What do you want to know, lady? But anyway, I am really surprised she thought
That's
she's my wife
funny.
today. But it's just amazing what AI can do. Now,
Mhm.
Colin also said just a few comments. from the live audience, prompting instruction are critical. Words matter. Humans don't understand the same word. And then he talked about second, third, and fourth effect, which we talked about.
Mhm.
And then Ron says, truth isn't just fact, which you can derive data, but truth as wisdom, which only a human or living creature has domain. I think that is so true, especially in the military when it's a question of life or death. Help in identifying target is one thing, but execution of the target is where the human in the loop is essential. Absolutely essential. Thank you so much for sharing on. Okay, we have about maybe 10 minutes left. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try to, for this last segment, get into your head and kind of try to understand the leadership principles that have helped you become the great success you are today. So, first question I'm going to ask you: what do you believe is uh, one of the greatest lesson you have ever learned in life, in leadership in general?
You don't have to react to everything.
Hmm.
So sometimes no reaction is the best choice.
Hmm.
Um,
I love that.
because if you're engaging in everything, you're diluting your message.
I love that. So don't react emotionally, but allow the space to actually come up with a response for whatever you are facing. That is very, very powerful. And what do you think is the secret to your success? Why are you so successful in AI safety, you think?
Um, I think because I think in systems, naturally, I apply a framework, I think, to everything I do. And it's funny because now I can see it. I could not see it
Mm,
before. Even
powerful.
down to I was watching my son's little league game, and
Mhm.
there's the funniest thing that happens in these games at his age. I've noticed if a child gets to second base and starts running to third, he might as well just run home because if
Yes,
cause he's going to score, like, because if the ball,
yes.
well, it's really if the ball's over there lost in like midfield,
Mhm.
he will score. So essentially, I'm like, all you gotta do is tell these kids if you start rounding and you can go to third, you keep going home. And then
Mm.
on the defense side, you need to set up defense at third base. And I'm like, it seems so obvious,
Wow.
everything I see it
Yes.
in a systems viewpoint. I'm sure it drives my husband crazy because
Yes.
he's questioning him when I'm really just testing it intent. So, um,
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
Wow.
honestly, yeah. So
That is really powerful. How do you think you develop that system view? How did it happen for you? You think
honestly, I think
because they don't teach that in schools, really.
No, and I think that my siblings probably are very similar
Mhm.
in this too. I think that my parents, my dad,
Yeah.
he retired 40 years of service from the Pentagon. He still works
Mm.
for the Department of Homeland Security, and there were two things that I remember distinctly from childhood. One was, and I have always loved it and carried it forward. He always told us
Yes.
if you aren't getting the answer you want, you aren't talking to the right person. So
Mm.
that has really helped propel me forward. But then, secondly, there were many conversations in my teenage years where he would say, Sari, we're going in a circle. We're
Mm.
going in a circle. And so he would always bring me back around to answering the question that he asked. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
that there was, I mean, there's so many people that don't
I like
answer the
that.
question you ask. So I think that really, that maybe that's the basis of it all right
Yes.
there. So,
Yes. That is powerful. Thank you for the insight. I appreciate that. Now I know leaders are learners. What are you learning these days?
oh gosh, I mean everything about AI safety. I mean, because you can never stop learning. So, and
Yes.
I use, my own personal model for training.
Mhm.
Like I ask it to help me create a training system so I can,
Yes.
what parts am I missing here? Where can I go look for more training? And it
Mhm.
directs me to it so quickly. So it
Yes.
really, because I enjoy this space so much, because I enjoy language so much and
Mm.
grammar and all of the disciplines that I talk about from liberal arts, classical education, it's really consumes me, and I can sit
That's
in it for
something.
hours.
Wow. No, I think really being passionate about what you do, that's so key because if you don't have passion for what you do, if you're just looking for money, eventually you are going to face some challenges and you're going to want to quit, right? Because there is no love, there is no passion. But
Absolutely.
on top of that too, I like that you're saying basically we have to make up our mind in this century that we're going to be student forever. We're going to have to keep learning and learning and learning. It's not like when my grandparents went to school, they only needed high school back then and they could work at one one
Mhm.
position, one job for 20 years, 25 years, and get their gold watch and retire. Those days are gone, aren't they?
It's
Oh,
sad. Yes,
yeah,
sadly they are.
it's
You know, but at least everybody expects it now, I guess, because
yes.
there was a transition, I think I remember with even my husband, 10, 15 years ago, where we were like,
Mhm.
okay, this is not how it works anymore. So
Yes,
um,
yes.
we're moving around. So,
No,
but
it's really exciting to be alive in 2026. Now, we do talk about success a lot. I love this coin I got from one of my skipper. One side says success, the other side says failure. How has failure shaped your life?
so failure, it's in the failure and the struggle and the hard times where growth really happens. Because if you're not failing, you're probably not growing. You just
Mhm.
think, oh, I'm doing great, everything's going well. So for me, when I was at Alabama and I worked in admissions and I made a decision to go into the MBA program, um, I it was the year of the swine flu, 2009, and I ended up, getting the swine flu right before finals, and well, maybe about a month before finals. And so I medically withdrew because it was very difficult on me health wise, and I had come from arts and sciences into the business school, and it was so different from anything I had done before. And
Mhm.
I took a step back and I really thought about it, and I thought, well, what do I want to do? Because the business school is so different how it functions from arts and sciences. And in arts and
Yes.
sciences, I felt like very valued and coddled. And then the business school, and there's nothing there. It's a great business school,
Mhm.
but it wasn't for me because they teach you this is how you do it. If you do it like this, you're going to graduate and get out. It wasn't like classroom discussion. Let's talk about this. Where in
Yes.
arts and sciences, it's very meaningful and philosophical in ways. So that's when I thought, well, I don't actually want to do that. And so I spent
Yes.
a period of time drifting, I think. And so it really helped me to reevaluate who I was and what my values are and what do I really want to do in my life.
Hmm.
That failure really, without it, I don't think I would be sitting here today.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there a greatest fear that you've been able to overcome in your life?
Yes, but not by choice. I'm losing my mother. So she
Sorry to hear
passed.
that.
Thank you. She passed in 2017, 2018. She actually,
Wow.
yes, it was right around the time we were moving. And what I remember thinking before she passed, there was so long, my whole life, I thought, how will I survive without her? I will never be able to
Yes.
live without her. But then
Mm.
what I found was that my faith and the foundation that she gave me was so strong that
Yes.
I came out on the other side happy
Mm.
and with intention and direction. And she still has influence in my life.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
just on a different level. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm really sorry to hear that. I guess that's another thing we have in common. I lost my mother during the COVID
Mm,
pandemic. She was in France, and yeah, she passed away. For the first couple of months, I didn't think I was gonna make it either.
mm,
But yeah, but again, I rely on the faith that she taught me. Actually, most people don't know, but my middle name is Minu, Minu. It's a Latin name, which in English is translated faith or hope. So she gave me that name, and yeah, I always will rely on my faith when things don't go my way. Now, I don't think I will ever get over that she's no longer with
no,
us on Earth, but I can definitely live life
with
normally and
it.
remember the impact she's had on
Yes,
my
there's
life.
beauty
And
in the
it's,
transformation, but it
yes,
doesn't mean I wouldn't have sat untransformed happily for the rest of my life. So,
yes,
but
yes,
it really, I think that everything is full circle eventually. And
true, true.
um,
Mm,
she gave me such a wonderful foundation, and
yes,
I'm so grateful for all of
mm,
everything she did. So, but I always thought I would never survive that, and so it was meaningful to look at the almost 10 years down the road and think I am actually happy today. The holidays are enjoyable again.
yes,
Yes, I miss
yes,
her and I'll
yes.
always miss her, but
That
I didn't
is so
think I would
true. Mm.
so
And I know we have the same faith, and we do believe you will meet her again. So
yes. Yes,
Thank
that's
you
right.
for giving hope to my audience. Okay, so let me ask you: if you could choose three people to have dinner with, you could choose anybody who's alive, dead, or even fictitious character. Who would you choose and why? Three people.
Um, so I would choose Jesus Christ because he's my
Mhm.
savior, and
Okay.
I have lots of questions for him, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, and
Two more.
then obviously my mother.
Mm.
So and then Dr. Charles Swindoll because he
Mm.
actually dedicated me as a baby. My parents were very
Really?
yes, my parents lived in Southern California.
The Dr. Charles Wendell?
He did, yes, yes.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
I found letters where he wrote my mom back after they had moved, and they were giving updates on their families, and I thought,
Wow,
well, I just really, if I wish I could get out there to meet him, but yeah, he would.
that's amazing.
I
I know
can
he's
see.
written a lot of books, but
Yes,
wow.
he is. Yes, and his principles haven't changed. And so it was interesting when I listened to his parenting series because my mom had told me forever,
Yeah,
listen to his parenting series and you will learn how to do this. And so I would listen to it and I would think, this is so,
right.
I understand. I have experienced all of this and now I'm trying to implement it. So,
That is amazing. Wow. Before I ask you the next question, really quickly, people who are online, okay, I think we already talked about truth. Ron also says it's more important to know the song than to know the notes. I couldn't agree more. And Walker from YouTube says, totally agree with that. As a higher ed professional, music major as a whole are highly intelligent and often tend to be high performers. So I guess people may not know I am a musician too. I started playing the piano when I was about 7 years old, initially because my dad forced me to, but later on I really loved it, enjoyed it. I think it allows you to, I guess, use both sides of your brain, I think. But anyway,
yes,
uh,
yes.
Ron says common ground, and I believe this is Colleen who says common ground isn't always common. I work with people from around the world. So true. And we have Daniel also joining us all the way from Maitland, Florida. Anyway, I love reading those again. Like I say, 5 years ago when I
Mhm.
did this, it was just me, myself, and I. I didn't have an audience to listen to anything I had to say. So thank you so much for being here. So let me ask you this. Is there maybe a song, a book, or a movie that would be your life's theme or anthem?
My life's theme or anthem. I think one of my most favorite songs. The one that I tell my children, say
Mhm.
if anything ever happens to me, go pull the program that I wrote for my mom's memorial service and just add
Mm.
"Be Thou My Vision" to
Viva
it.
my vision, yes.
And you will be ready to print and use it. So that one, absolutely, that one is
Is
very.
is there that one is sung by a lot of people? Is there a favorite artist you like?
No, no,
Rendition?
well, no, I because now you go online and you search and there's so many and you don't recognize
Yeah,
any of them. So there's always
yeah.
gonna. I like the
Okay.
male version of it though. So
Because
yeah,
part of the reason why I asked, because for this podcast since last year we have two things. So I have a digital library. Any book you recommend on podcast, I
okay,
add those to the library. We started in May of last year with just two books. Today we have
nice.
more than 400 books. You can go online,
Oh
you can see
wow,
all of the books recommended by my guests. And then I also started 2 months ago a playlist. So I have a music playlist. It's on Apple Music. You can
I'll
subscribe to it, and you're gonna
mhm,
look at all of the songs people have recommended who've been on the show. So
I'll
I'm gonna
find.
add Viva My Vision to the
Okay,
list.
great. And I do have a book if you want to add to it. Well, not necessarily that is a theme, but is
Mhm,
I think is a very impactful book. I mean, I guess it
mhm.
could be a theme, but
Yes,
it's called Virtuous Minds, and
mine.
it really just talks about how not necessarily the decisions we make, but how we arrive at the decisions we make, and do
Mhm.
it in a very ethical integrity way. So
And is the book by Philip Dow?
yes, that's right.
Virtuous Mind. Okay, got it, got it. I will make sure to add it. Thank
I
you. Thanks so
totally
much.
enjoyed that one. I found that one through
All
my
right.
community, so it was
So
fabulous.
I'm gonna need to land this plan soon. Let me ask you this: if you had one and only one day to live, what would you have liked your final contribution to be?
To have made AI safe for my children and their children.
Mm, that's so powerful. I like that. Now, if you had a magic wand, you could solve any problem in the world. What is the one problem you'd like to solve first thing tomorrow morning?
Inflation.
Okay. Yeah, that's a.
Okay, great
I,
one.
I can't believe how much food is costing these days.
It's
You
crazy. Yeah.
you almost have to be a millionaire to be able to survive
Yeah.
in Silicon
You
Valley.
can't eat at home for less than you can eat out now. That's the part that's crazy.
Yeah.
me. So it's So
Yeah,
that's
I think I'd like to help you solve that problem. Like especially in California, just last week, I'm so glad as a Californian I drive electric. I'm so grateful for that because the price of gas almost $7 a gallon. Can you believe that?
yes, yes. I can. Yeah,
$7.
I had sticker shock at the pump myself because I pumped it and didn't look, and I looked back and I was
Wow.
like, what happened? So yeah,
Man, I want to have a week like folks are about to purchase gas and just go to work. It's just incredible. But yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I am definitely with you on that. Okay. Let me see. There is one more question I want to ask, but before I do, so we are going to coming to the end of the show. What can my audience do to add value back to you? Thanks so much for spending the hour with us today and teaching us from your wisdom and experience. How can we pay it back?
Um, you know, find me on LinkedIn, and if you have favorite publications or training or books or anything that if you found meaningful or helpful in your life, I would love to look at them. I
Fantastic.
absorb all knowledge that I can. I'm a lifelong learner.
That is really amazing. Now, this is one of the most important questions I ask all of my guests. But if you could go back and give a piece of advice to your 17-year-old self, standing at the edge of this incredible career you've had in AI safety, what would you say to 17-year-old Sarah Catherine?
Hmm. Not to take everything so seriously as a younger person. And maybe get an engineering degree.
Well, obviously you don't need to have one, but yeah, I guess if you
That's
wanted
right.
to.
You don't need to have one, but honestly, no. Honestly, if I could do it all over again, I probably would have gone into Christian apologetics. That would have been amazing.
Wow, amazing. Okay, if we have time for a couple of minutes, I want to do a rapid fire. Just ask you a really quick question. Don't take too long to think now. Give me first thing that comes out of your mind. One question is one word that describe the future of AI.
Undetermined.
Okay, what is the biggest AI myth?
Um, that it's going to take over the world.
Okay, when we talk about AI,
Like, I don't think that's going to replace humans. It cannot replace humans.
people, when they talk about AI, they think about utopia. We're gonna all go to heaven, things gonna be fun, or dystopia is gonna kill all of us, destroy the world. So, which one? AI, utopia or dystopia?
Utopia.
Now, AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence, which is what most of the companies in the US are trying to reach to, from Google, OpenAI, and Microsoft and Elon Musk. So, do you think that is just a pipe dream or is it reachable? AGI.
I think it's reachable.
Okay, one book everyone should read.
Virtuous Minds.
Okay, and what is one word that defines great leadership?
Restraint.
Okay, morning routine or practice that keeps you grounded.
Practice that keeps me grounded.
Is there a quote that changed your life or even another book?
What was the first part? Is there a
A,
what?
a quote or a book that changed your life. Don't say Virtuous Mind.
Okay. So anything by Dr. Charles Swindoll. He has a lot of really good books. Oh, the Book of Proverbs. That's my best.
Yes,
What a
fantastic.
wisdom.
So,
So they're Proverbs.
very good. Who inspired you the most today?
Who?
Mm-hmm.
You did. It's been so
Really?
great to connect.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have always watched your career, and I thought, wow, Bob's done such a great job in his
Thank
career.
you. Thank you.
Like, what a wonderful job.
Well,
Like great. And then all of a sudden AI emerges, and I'm like, here I am.
wow.
So
Thank you. Coming from my T-Town girl, I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, what is the leadership habit you refuse to compromise on? Something you will do no matter what. No compromise.
I do not compromise on accuracy.
All right. And what is the question every leader should ask themselves?
Am I doing this for myself or for others?
Back to humility and ego. Huh? So, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
A lawyer. I thought I
Really?
did. Yeah, I did.
Ah,
So
okay.
did a LSAT and changed my mind.
Well, now with the work you do in AI, you are helping lawyers use AI safely. So,
Mhm.
bravo.
And
What else?
honestly, it's the thing, but the LSAT was very focused on what is true
Mm-hmm.
and meaning, so it all kind of cycles together.
Yes. What are 3 adjectives describing you as a child?
It's playful, mischievous, um, follower of my older brother.
Okay. What about as an adult?
Determined, precise, loyal.
All right. I like to end the show on an optimistic note. So, what is something you are feeling optimistic about these days?
My direction forward in this space.
Fantastic. Okay. The very, very last question. Oh, before I ask you that, is there any question I should have asked you? Anything else you wanted to share on the podcast before we end?
No, I think that we covered pretty much all the high points. So
Fantastic.
it
All right.
great.
So, last question. One word that represents our shared experience on this podcast this morning.
Um, one word.
Don't take too long to think.
Collaboration. So
Collaboration. I love that. I am so grateful to be speaking to somebody from the University of Alabama, an expert in AI. Really, back then in 2010, no, when we both worked for undergraduate admission or enrollment management for me, I had no idea what your life was going to be or even what I was going to be doing 10, 15, 20 years later. It's really wonderful how life kind of goes full circle. And here you are on my screen and
yeah,
sharing your wisdom and your expertise with my tribe and my audience. Really, thank you so much, Sarah Catherine Carpenter.
thank
Appreciate it.
you.
All right.
Thanks.
Right. All right, everybody. So this is one for the book. I want everyone to please follow Sarah Catherine on LinkedIn. Very easy. LinkedIn.com in Sarah K. Carpenter. All right. And I won't have any interviews tomorrow, but I'm going to go back to the study of the book of Proverbs. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing Proverbs chapter 23. We did chapter 22 last time. Again, this is about ancient wisdom and leadership lesson. It's not about religion or anything like that. We're going to be looking at a book written more than 2,000 years ago and how those lessons are still applicable and relevant today in 2026. All right. That's what I have. And as you guys know, we do celebrate Black History Year here on the Leadership and Success podcast. Just a couple of things I've written. 2 articles. I usually like to look at it in 2 ways. One, what happened today? Today is May the 8th. On May the 8th, 2009. That's not a long time ago, guys. No, that's only a few years ago, right? 17 years ago. May 8, 2009, on this day, member of the KKK, Ku Klux Klan, burned a cross in a black neighborhood in Ozark, Alabama, of all places, in an attempt to terrorize African American residents and intimidate families because of the color of their skin. That happened in Ozark, Alabama in 2009. I have a post about that you can read. And then the second thing, which is a lot more positive, is somebody in history of African American descent that did something, I believe, that is extraordinary or we should remember. The first African woman judge, her name is Jane Bolin. And I actually have a very short video I am going to play about her achievement, and we do celebrate her work. And because of her, we have the very first Black woman on the Supreme Court today, Justice Jackson. So I really do believe that we do stand on the shoulder of giants, of those who preceded us, of trailblazers, those who were the very first. Like for me, for example, one of my biggest heroes, you can see up there, General Colin Powell. I had the chance to meet him once in Atlanta when he was doing the promotion for his book, and he was able to mentor me that day. But he's somebody I've been looking at from a distance because he was a 4-star general in the most powerful military in the world. And not only that, but also the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, the first African American. And me knowing that when I became enlisted in the Navy 21 years ago, I always had that in the back of my mind, right? If somebody like him can become a 4-star general, a senior officer in the most powerful military in the world, no, there is hope for me too. So I do believe that representation matters, and it matters a lot. Okay, so I'm going to play a short clip about 2-3 minutes about the very first female African American judge in the U.S., Jane Bolin, and that's going to do it for today. And I hope to see you tomorrow for our continued study of the Book of Proverbs, chapter 23, Ancient Wisdom from the Book of Proverbs and Leadership Lesson. So, bye for now.
The Wise Channel celebrates history makers who did amazing things. What is this?
I'm pretending to be a judge, and this is my courtroom.
You sound like Judge Jane Bolin.
Jane Bolin was born in Poughkeepsie? What is this word?
You mean Poughkeepsie. It's a city in New York.
Oh, Kapoopski.
It's Poughkeepsie. Can we move on?
Yes, I will allow that.
Anyway, she was born in 1908. Her father was a lawyer, but sadly her mother died when Jane was a child.
Jane was a great student. She was so smart, she went to college when she was 16 years old. But no matter how smart she was, she still had to deal with racism. Many colleges would not accept Jane just because she was an African American.
I object! That's terrible!
Sustained. I rule the people at those colleges need some more education. If they don't get any more, they're gonna have to take community service.
Thank you, Your Honor. Jane got accepted to Wellesley College in Massachusetts, but the students treated her so mean, Jane and the only other black student decided to live further away from the school.
Even with all of those challenges, Jane was one of the best students there too.
After college, Jane studied to be a lawyer at the Yale Law School, where she was the only black student. What are you doing?
You said Yale.
Not Yale, Yale.
Oh, you said Yale?
It's a college.
Jane began working as a lawyer, and just 7 years later, the mayor of New York chose her to become a judge. At just 31 years old, Jane became the first African American female judge in the whole country. She was also the only black woman to be a judge for 20 more years.
She was a fair and kind judge who used her 40 years on the bench making sure everyone was treated fairly no matter the color of their skin or how much money they have. She also paved the way for more women and people of color to become judges.
I have heard enough. I have my decision.
Have you?
I rule that Judge Jane Bolin is awesome and the pride and joy of Poughkeepsie.
It's Poughkeepsie! What kind of judge are you?
What? You wouldn't talk to Jane Bolin like that, would you? By the order of the court, it is now called Poughkeepsie.
Let's talk. Jane was a fair and kind judge. What kind of judge would you be? Jane and the other African American students were treated badly in college. How can you make sure everyone in your school feels like they belong? Jane overcame challenges to make history. How can you overcome challenges you face? Have you subscribed to the Wise channel yet? If not, do it right now so you don't miss out on our new videos. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If today's episode added value to your leadership journey, be sure to subscribe, share, and join us again for more wisdom nuggets on how to lead better and achieve greater success. Remember, leadership is the most critical skill of our time. The world will always need leaders to inspire others, drive innovation, and execute meaningful strategy. So why not count yourself among the bold leaders shaping the 21st century? Until next time, stay inspired, stay committed, and keep leading with excellence.